Good morning, Nigeria, and welcome to Daybreak on Trust Television. It's another wonderful opportunity to have you right with us this morning. I am Sunday Michael Ogo.
It is a beautiful Thursday morning, and this is Daybreak on Trust TV. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
What a way to begin this Thursday. It's calm and cool in Abuja, but that is understandable. Most of the vehicles are queuing up in the filling station still. Queuing up in the filling station still. I remember the last time we were saying if we are not careful, we may just run the entire 2020 queuing up in the filling stations. You don't even know what to queue up for. On the one hand, there is no gas, then there is no generator, there is no diesel to run your generators, and now there are no fuels to run your vehicle. It's a double whammy for the average Nigerian at this point in time, but we hope that better days lie ahead. We begin the show this morning with the highlights of the headlines this morning. INEC agrees to extend voters' registration by 60 days.
I'm worried senators are leaving APC, Adamu.
Why we can't pay Benue workers, according to Governor Otom.
All right, now we'll take the news in detail. The national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Abdullahi Adamu, has expressed worry over the gale of defections in the party. 7 senators dumped APC for other opposition parties after they failed to secure the governing party's ticket to contest the 2023 elections. Members of the Senate who have defected from the APC are Ibrahim Shekaro from Kano, Yahya Abdullahi Kebi, Adamu Alero, also from Kebbi, Dauda Jika Bauchi, Ahmad Babba Keita Katsina, Lawal Yahya Gumau Bauchi, and Francis Ali Mikena from Edo. Briefing reporters after a closed-door meeting with APC senators, Adamu said it was unfortunate that the lawmakers left the party.
Moving on, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has agreed to extend the ongoing continuous voters registration exercise initially slated to end at the end of June 2022. Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, Honorable Aishatu Jibrin Duku, disclosed this while briefing fellow lawmakers on the committee's effort to ensure implementation of the House resolution reached last week. The House of Representatives had last week, Wednesday, urged INEC to extend the deadline for the continuous voters registration by an extra 60 days from June 30, 2022 to enable more Nigerians to register. The House also called on the Commission to deploy additional staff and voters' registration machines across the country to meet the objective.
And Governor Samuel Ortom of Benue State on Wednesday said it had become difficult to pay salaries of Benue workers. Daily Trust reports that workers under the state's employ have been complaining of being owed 3 months' salaries. Ortom, while answering questions from journalists in Makurdi, the state capital, on Wednesday, gave 3 reasons for the development. He blamed factors such as the rising cost of overheads, the inability of the NNPC to remit money to the federal accrual, and the state's low internally generated revenue as a result of insecurity.
That's the highlight of the news headline this morning. And now moving on, the Senate will next week, Wednesday, screen the 7 ministerial nominees forwarded to the chamber by President Muhammadu Buhari for confirmation. Senate President Ahmed Lawan stated this in an announcement on Wednesday, moments before the Senate adjourned plenary. The report.
President Buhari had, in a letter dated 15 June 2022, requested the Senate to confirm the nomination of 7 ministerial nominees. The nominees are to be screened individually by the upper chamber during plenary.
The screening of ministerial nominees on Wednesday next week.
Meanwhile, the Senate now has 5 minority parties. This comes as 2 senators from Bauchi and Imo states resigned their membership of the All Progressives Congress, APC, and the People's Democratic Party, PDP, respectively. The lawmakers are Senator Dauda Chika, representing Bauchi Central, and Senator Ezenwa Francis Onyewuchi, representing Imo East Senatorial District. Both senators, in separate letters to the Senate President, indicated that to join the Labour Party and the New Nigerian People's Party, respectively.
Your Excellency, Mr. President, letter of defection. Letter of defection. I wish to inform Mr. President and distinguished senators of my defection from the People's Democratic Party, PDP, to the Labour Party, LP. This is after due consultation with my family constituents, and supporters. This will enable me to participate fully in the movement for a new Nigeria. Accept the assurance of my highest esteem, signed Senator Ezinwa Onyewuchi. I hereby wish to notify you of my defection from the All Progressives Congress APC to the new Nigeria People's Party, whose ideals is in line with my political aspirations. Please accept the assurances of my esteemed personal regards. Signed, Senator Haliru Dauda Jika, FNSE, Doka Jimbauchi.
The defections bring the number of APC senators to 66, with members of the minority parties standing at 43.
Meanwhile, the House of Representatives has resolved to compel the federal government to approve firearms for local vigilante to aid the fight against insurgency, banditry, and kidnapping in the country. The resolution, amongst others, follows a motion of urgent national importance on the sorry state of insecurity in the country, especially the recent abduction of a traditional ruler in Plateau State. The Green Chamber also urged the federal government to direct the Inspector General of Police, Chief of Defense Staff, and other relevant security agencies to immediately secure the safe release of the district head of Panyang and others in captivity across the country. A report.
Insecurity has become an almost everyday occurrence in the country, as no other day hardly passes without news of kidnapping or another security challenge. The recent adoption of a traditional ruler by armed bandits in Plateau State seems to have triggered wide condemnation by federal lawmakers in the Green Chamber. Representative Solomon Marin, who brought the motion on the kidnapping of the traditional ruler from Plateau, Aminu Dawan, by heavily armed bandits, said the assailants shot indiscriminately in the early hours of Monday before whisking away the traditional ruler. He called on the House to summon the Inspector General of Police, the Army, as well as other security agencies to find out why this trend has continued unabated.
Concerned that hitherto little or nothing has been heard of any serious or deliberate action taken to cap or forestall or even arrest and prosecute these hoodlums. Worried that unless something is done deliberately, in fact, urgently, to reduce, stop, or curtail these ugly occurrences, which has become a recurrent decimal, our communities may soon be thrown in total terror, fear, and lawlessness.
Federal lawmakers, while condemning the attacks as well as the state of insecurity in the country, also made some amendments to the motion.
There is nothing that will happen. I have it here in my handset. At times they give the direction and even where they are meeting. But it's the implementing agency. Even if you are going to recruit the entire villages now and give them these light arms, somebody carrying an arm, a gun that can discharge 100 bullets in one round, how will you face him? AK-47, how will you face him?
The Borno model that I want to recommend for the state governments in the various affected states to equally fund and support is the formation of a very robust vigilante groups that are going to be armed, not necessarily with sophisticated weapons like AK-47, with pump-action guns, having gotten clearance from the National Security Advisor.
The motion was adopted when it was put to vote by the Speaker, Femi Bajabemila, at plenary.
Staying with security, Muslims and Christians from the 23 local government of Kaduna State have observed a one-day prayer and fasting to end the economic and security challenges bedeviling the state. Clerics from both faiths who spoke during the prayer session said the worsening state of insecurity in Kaduna necessitated the desire to seek God's help. The report.
Kaduna State is one of the states in the northwest facing banditry, terrorism and other crimes, despite effort by security agencies to address them. The worsening security situation is daily reducing options available to those charged with the responsibility of protecting lives and property. This one-day prayer session by Christians and Muslims is observed across the state for God to intervene.
There shall be no bloodshed. There shall be unity. There shall be peace. In Jesus' name we are praying.
We don't have anything. It's this God we're calling, and it's this God we're looking up to. And that's why both Muslims and Christians are praying today to salvage Kaduna State.
There are a lot of things happening in Kaduna that we are not aware of. So we can only settle this matter in the place of prayer. We are praying for mercy for Kaduna State.
An All Progressive Congress APC governorship aspirant in the last primary election, Sani Shaban, has given up on government and her ability to bring peace and is now relying on God.
We fasted today. We believe we don't have any strength but that only the strength of God Almighty. We believe we don't have any wisdom except that wisdom of God Almighty. We believe whoever is trying to wrangle, kill Kaduna State, allow Kaduna State to fly in a plane without a pilot, for Kaduna State to crash, God Almighty will not allow that to happen.
Practitioners of the two major religions in Nigeria are positive that a spiritual angle may hold the magic wand to solving the state security challenges.
And away from insecurity, financial viability and sustainability are amongst the many challenges media organizations around the world grapple with on a daily basis. Now, these challenges are worsened by the loss of revenue generation through the rise of technology platforms such as Facebook, Google, Twitter, and several others. It is in view of these challenges that the International Center for Investigative Reporting, ICIR, as part of its 10-year anniversary celebration, gathered stakeholders to brainstorm on parameters to address them. Trust TV's Aisha Saleh reports.
The proliferation of the digital media believed to have laid a siege on the survival of traditional media has forced operators to devise means of diversifying content in order to ensure sustainability.
There are two things in my mind, or in my humble opinion, that will help us deliver a competent news product. The first and the most important one is editorial independence. And the second one is commitment to investing in compelling, exclusive, and relevant news content. As a media owner, you must be a crusader for media freedom. It's important if we want our businesses to be sustainable. The sustainability of the media is strongly linked to its capacity to operate effectively under sound political, legal, and economic conditions.
For the media to maintain relevance, panelists at this Media Sustainability Conference make a case for dynamism as well as objectivity on the part of practitioners.
The media is supposed to be dynamic, so is content. As tastes of people are changing, newer challenges are emerging. In the past, we didn't have issues of insurgency in Nigeria. We didn't have the pandemic. The kind of inflation we're experiencing are not there, which means the media must be sensitive to the multicultural setting of the country and the diverse nature of Nigeria. And when we talk of the media, we're talking of the staff themselves. How equipped are they? How trained are they to respond to this needs?
If you want to have a sustainable business, it means you yourself, not just be reporting about politicians who are corrupt, who are not transparent. Is your business also transparent?
Stakeholders say media owners should abide by the ethics of professionalism, accountability, and unbiased gatekeeping to enable the media maintain its agenda-setting role.
It is almost delusional on our part to expect that we can run a successful media business in a country when the economy of that country is tanking. And I think you are absolutely correct. Which is why, for me, journalism remains paramount. Because as the world becomes more chaotic, there is a need for that primary job that journalists are supposed to do, which is hold those responsible for policy, for everything, whether they're in business, whether they're in public office, accountable.
Discussions at the session focused on the contributions of the media in organizational leadership, collaboration and strategic partnerships for addressing the sustainability challenge of the media in Africa to ensure compliance with global best practices. Aisha Salihu, Trust TV News, Abuja.
That is a wrap on the news highlights this morning. We will now take a short breather. When we return, we'll serve you highlights of the newspaper review. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that you look at the same, not necessarily tribal or regional. But I have said that. Where you find that you look at the same, not necessarily tribal or regional. But I have said that.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Daybreak on Trust Television, and we will now be looking at what the papers are telling us this Thursday morning, and we will start as usual with the Daily Trust newspaper. And on the cover of the Daily Trust newspaper, the major headline reads, "Military moves to flush out soldiers with divided loyalty." It has the riders, says deployment of unmotivated personnel counterproductive. Directive would further dampen officers' morale, ward veterans. Move misguided, ill-advised, retire colonel. You find these and many more on page 4 of the Daily Trust newspaper. We'll have right beneath that the major picture on the cover, which essentially captures the moment two Chibok girls, Mariam Dauda and Hawa Joseph, with their sons, were rescued by the military after 8 years in captivity. Amazing, amazing. And they disclose, of course, that they have several others that have continued to remain in captivity. We have the major bed below the major headlines there. 20 of our mates still in Sambisa, according to the rescue girls. You find the details of the story on page 35. And the editor's pick there, we have kidnapped ex-Anambra lawmakers beheaded after 15 million naira ransom. That's a pathetic one this morning. Cholera kills 74 persons in 30 states within 6 months. I wonder if Ukraine, with all the wars, loses this amount of persons in as little time as we do. Yesterday, it was 7,000 women, dying to 7,000 maternal mortality in Ebonyi State, a state that is not at war today. We see cholera taking so much more. NGS sustained gain capitalization. As market capitalizations move up by 153 billion. And right below the nameplates there, we have governors, monarchs seek to influence PAMSEC appointment. This is according to head of service. And you find that details on page 38. INEC agreed to extend voters registration deadline. Reps committee chair disclosed. This is on page 14. And families seek justice for fuel attendant killed by Air Force officer. The way we take laws into our hands. You find that story on page 36. These are the major serve on the front page of the Daily Trust this morning.
The next paper we're going to be looking at is the Leadership newspaper, and it carries the major headline on the front page. Fear grips APC over gale of defections. Adamu runs to National Assembly. That is carrying the kicker aftermath of primaries. And Riders here says defections worrisome, unfortunate. More senators quit party for being denied tickets. And Wike meets with Obi Bala Muhammad. That is the major headline on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. INEC bows to pressure, extends voter registration, and details of that could be found on page 7. And when on the top of the nameplate there, judges' salaries, talks over suit against National Assembly, AGF, NJC collapse. War attack, killings, kidnappings unacceptable, says President Muhammadu Buhari. 1,000 die in Afghan earthquake is another headline on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. And filling stations defy FG's directive, sell fuel above 165 naira per litre. That is for those who actually have access to it. Magodo residents raise alarm over invasion by land speculators. That is also another headline on the front page of the Leadership newspaper. And looking at the economy now, Nigerians spent over 40% more on palm groundnut oil in 1 year, says NBS. That is attributed to the National Bureau of Statistics. Well, these are the major headlines on the front page of the Leadership newspaper this morning.
Moving on, we will now look at the national economy, which serves a rather concentrated interest on stories revolving around the economy. And the major headline on the national economy this morning, its rise in food prices contradicts Buhari's claim of improved economy. We would all recall the president's statement yesterday saying that the country is doing far better than it did, than it was in 2015. As NBS says, prices of 2 kg pre-packaged wheat flour jumped from 785 naira to 1,060 naira. A bottle of palm oil increased from 593 naira to 847 naira in just 1 year. Above the nameplate, you have, despite $80 billion investment, 35 million Nigerians still lack access to telephone services. That's some interesting statistics there. You find below the major headline, Senate to investigate Shell over alleged illegal oil lease renewal. That story is on page 4. Domestic foreign transactions on NGS hit 1.5 trillion. Interesting numbers there. CBN fought misleading report on payment of overseas tuition. And Owando resolves shareholders' dispute, releases 2019-2020 results. That's been a running battle with the Nigerian the Securities and Exchange Commission, I beg your pardon, over crisis of management and all of that. It's good that that story, that crisis is coming to a halt, and the company can once again breathe some air of relief. These are the major headlines of the paper we had yet in the studio, and we will take a short breather. When we return, our guest analysts will be introduced to you, and we will dive deep into the issues on the front page.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels. Leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news, or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Thank you for staying tuned to Daybreak on Trust Television. We have been taking the newspaper review before that short break. And we have in the studio our guest analyst for this morning, a public affairs commentator. And I'm talking about no other than Mr. Larry Oluwani. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio.
Thank you very much.
But before we get his insights on the papers, we'll quickly run you through a few other papers that came in a moment ago. And we have This Day newspaper with us in the studio. And the major headline from This Day newspaper this morning reads, Adamu meets senators, says he is worried by the gale of defection. That's according to the This Day newspaper this morning, and it has the following riders. Senators list condition to halt action. Two more lawmakers quit parties, 22 planning to defect soon, according to Fani Kayode. Soon, Fani Kayode raises alarm. PDP may soon form majority in upper chambers, Aduda boasts. INEC has power to reject Lawan Akpabio, Falana declares. And right there above the name tag, Moman, FG must deregulate downstream to address fuel supply challenges. Don't sell fuel above 165 naira. Ipman, adding top warns members, appoint consultants to recover debt. Nigeria's problem is distribution, not supply, according to Pengasin. You get all kinds of claim around the issues of this first custody, unfortunately. And right below the name marks, Buhari, we won't let anyone put Nigeria under unnecessary religious stress. Says wicked people behind recent attack on churches, vow perpetrators will be brought to justice, urges Nigerians to come together in prayer against coward attackers. That's the much you can take from This Day newspaper.
All right, the next newspaper we're going to be looking at this morning is The Guardian newspaper, which carries the major headline, 2023, no place for placeholder, Falana, senior lawyers back INEC, and carries the riders. Like presidential candidates, VP nominees can only withdraw from race voluntarily. And suggestion that a VP candidate can be submitted at will is erroneous, says in this position. And then 2010 Electoral Act, where political parties could substitute candidates, repealed in 2022 amended act. Well, that's the major headline on the front page of The Guardian. Just below the nameplate there, a couple of stories also. INEC denies extending voter registration, insists June 30th deadline. Well, that's quite an interesting one. We've been seeing stories telling us that the deadline has been extended, and now INEC is saying otherwise. Oloja and Anyanwu others chart path to media sustainability. Kumuyi advises politicians on choice of running mates. Gunmen kidnap soldier's wife, 6 others in Chukun local government. Well, these are headlines on the front page of The Guardian newspaper. Proscription, IPOB, product of injustice, Ohaneze replies Buhari. And Moman seeks review of single supplier strategy for petrol. Now, these are the major headlines on the front page of The Guardian newspaper.
And moving on quickly to The Sun newspaper this morning, just beside the name marks, we have US, UK, others won't ban IPOB, Ohaneze tells Buhari. And the major headline on The Sun newspaper this morning, it's voters registration, INEC bows, extend exercise by 60 days, plans deployment of additional machines, ad hoc staff. We have the second major headline on that paper this morning, subsidy to hit 6 trillion by year end. That is according to Ipman, says fuel supply drops by over 68% in 3 months. 2023, Wike Obi Mohammed meet in Port Harcourt. You find that story on page 27, and that's a belt on the Sun newspaper. That's the much we can take for the Sun this morning.
And the next newspaper we're going to be looking at is The Vanguard, which carries this major headline. Energy crisis, petrol scarcity to persist, says stakeholders. And riders are actually here. Pengasen cites bridging costs, says high diesel price affecting trucking of petrol by tankers. And ad sale importation, inadequate funds, others can guarantee supply. As Moman canvasses for full downstream deregulation, says inadequate supply responsible for scarcity. Another headline on the front page of The Vanguard, looking at politics now. Defections, we're worried but can't stop exodus, says APC National Chair Adamu. At the bottom of that front page, AGF asks courts to dismiss suit seeking upward review of judges' salaries. And tragedy in Ondo as flood sweeps away secondary school student. 2023, resist attempt to use social media to impede national security. That is a warning from the DSS. At the top of the nameplate, or above the nameplate there, 24 states get 477 billion refund for expenses on federal road projects, says the federal government. 20 missing Chibok girls still in Sambisa forest. This is attributed to the girls that were actually rescued. Strike, varsities reopen soon, federal government assures. Well, these are the headlines on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper.
And moving on to our last paper for review this morning, and that would be Nigeria's flagship, the Nigerian Tribune. The major headline on the Nigerian Tribune this morning reads, defection, panic in APC, Adamu pacifies senators. You find a picture of the APC National Party chairman and the Secretary Yulola right there by the Senate President on the front page of the Tribune newspaper, and you'll find the details of that story on page 2. We are disposed to extension of CVR, says INEC. That's also on page 2. Over 16 million involved in child labor in Nigeria. That's the size of some states in Nigeria, if you like. Recent attack on churches meant to cause religious stress. According to Buhari, you also find that story on page 2. 24 states got 477 billion refunds to expenses on projects. That's according to the federal government. Headless body of adopted ex-Anambra lawmaker found. That's a pitiful situation. Peter Obi Wike meets in Rivers. You find that story on page 33. NUT rejects Kaduna government sack of 2,357 teachers, threatening nationwide strike. Details of that story is also on page 2. And over 20 Chibok girls still in Sambisa. Sambisa forest, rescued victims confirmed. That's the headline we have this morning from the Tribune newspaper.
Lastly, we'll take a look at the Daily Champion newspaper, which carries this major headline. Ohaneze to Buhari, confront Fulani herdsmen with same might deployed to IPOB, says the Champion. And that's false president's call on Western allies to designate it as a terrorist group. Zulum in Cairo discusses Boko Haram at high-level forum on Africa and fuel scarcity. Moman advocates phased deregulation of petrol. Now, these are stories on the front page of the Daily Champion this morning.
That's the much we have as extra papers for you this morning. Like I said earlier, we have in the studio a public affairs analyst, Mr. Larry, who would help us, understand some of the issues on these front pages and build some perspectives around it. It's a pleasure to have you in the studio once again.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. We start as usual with the Daily Trust. The major headline here today says, the military moves to flush out soldiers with divided loyalty. And there has been all kinds of talk around it, with ex-military men saying the directive would dampen officers' morale, and some even saying that the move is misguided and ill-advised. At a time where we know there have been several reports around how these soldiers have not been provided adequate welfare or even warfare, to confront this crisis. How do you begin to explain what a divided loyalty is? I mean, is it enough for you to tell me to go and confront people with superior firepower with bare arms, and if I refuse, that becomes a divided loyalty? What's your take on this?
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. Nigeria we are very funny in this country, because how are they going to determine someone that have a divided loyalty? That's number one. What are the parameters? And that is not the issue. They should face the real issue and stop deceiving us with all these narratives. We have our armed soldiers out there that some of them have left their family at home for years at the battlefield. Some of them, they are not changing them. And that dampened their morale. Some of them, they saw their colleagues being killed at the battlefront. And their family at home, their widows at home are not being properly taken care of. Their children are not being properly taken care of. So, and they can hear all manner of stories how their leaders are working, taking some, a lot of corruption going there. So my advice to the military hierarchy is that they should rejig their system. That you find a way to boost the morale of these people, especially the lower rank officer. They should boost their morale, not to be telling them they can. For the first place that they make somebody to join Nigerian army in this country, he has already have a loyalty to the country and loyalty to the Nigerian forces. So what happened along the line? Something has happened. So they should look into it. What have we done wrong? So they should not. We are facing a lot. I don't want to dampen more on it because I've given a lot of story. A lot of interview, granted a lot of interview on security apparatus and the insecurity in this nation. So it's a sensitive matter that I don't want to dwell on, so that we not look as if that we are not appreciating what they are doing. We like what they are doing. We appreciate them. They should just help us, because we are in a dire condition as far as this nation is concerned.
No, unfortunately, when you talk about the papers on Nigeria's situation right now, you can't really run away from the issue of insecurity, because it's everywhere. A couple of days ago, we received reports that 2 Chibok girls were actually rescued after a very long time. And what they're saying is that we still have other girls out there that have been kidnapped with these particular set of girls. Is there any hope for these girls?
There is a hope. That is the only thing we will keep preaching. Because if there is no hope again, me and you will not be able to sit down here. So we'll keep preaching hope. We've been in this situation now getting to almost 10 years, to be realistic. And there are a lot of stories, allegations and counter-allegations. I'm privileged to live in Kano. After Kano, I'm privileged to live in Kaduna. I know I'm close to the... So I don't want to talk too much on that, because I know what so there are some things that is not good for us to be discussing out there, because it will keep, we can be so emotional about it. Because when you see the rate, they are killing our people. In one of the papers you read, it talked about Chikun local government about 2 days ago or so. That's the local government I know very well, which I also live in that part of local government before. So that will tell you how even my place where I was living before, it was invaded on January 10th this year.
But when you say you don't want to talk about it, how much of keeping silent is going to help the situation? Because I think we have endured the silence enough. It has got to a level where if you feel a pinch, you necessarily need to shout. Maybe because it's beginning to appear like our silence is being taken for granted, and therefore the government have a way of, because they have access to the media, every time they want to talk, the media is at their beck and call. It appears that that disadvantage in access to the media has made it look like our pains have been minimized. The reality on ground, like you said, especially in Chukun, is that people have even deserted their houses.
In my area.
Do you understand? It's a reality. People have moved to go and stay with relatives. They've shipped children away from the states completely.
Their own household.
In their own houses.
The house they built.
The truth of the matter is we can't continue to keep quiet, because that is a suboptimal living condition. Only heaven knows how they live with those relatives who are also struggling to cope with the current economic reality. Is there no end in sight? Is there nothing else we can do to reclaim our society?
Thank you very much. I've said it before, I will repeat it again. The only way forward is they should start looking into community policing. Because majority of all the attacks took place at the community level. And probably the information gathering, which is intelligent gathering, is not enough. And I am also aware of sabotaging, especially in Kaduna. Now, until we engage these traditional rulers and the state government have a serious meeting with them and seminars and trainings as well on security. Let me tell you, average Nigerians are not well trained about security.
Yeah, that brings me to this question, Ibrahim. If we have a military that is under-weaponized, if we have a police that is battling with welfare, is it community policing that would have the wherewithal to confront a terrorist group? That's where my concern is.
You know, where we need a community policing is they can easily identify who and who are perpetrating this evil. I'll give you a case study. Last year, Governor of Kaduna State, he shut down all the networks for 3 months. Do you know what has really happened? That has helped them to get to know the Okada riders, the Keke riders that are carrying food to meet these people in the forest, that they are using to buy something or the other, or take money through them. So that has really reduced. So the issue that the unemployment rate is there, we cannot shy away from it. Lack of welfareism is there, we cannot shy away from it. But until we all realize that we need to have a strong community policing, but everybody will be saying is, where is the money? A state governor will tell you, we don't have enough allocation. There is no way you have a security problem and you not have economic problem. They all work together, pari passu.
Yeah, because talking about community policing, I think we read a headline here that was talking about the members of the National Assembly trying to make moves to see that vigilantes are actually armed by the government. But just like Sunday pointed out, if we're saying that the current police force that we have now is under-equipped and the military that we have is under-equipped, then wouldn't we be adding more burdens on the lack of resources that we have by saying, okay, fine, well, let's arm these people so that they can be able to defend themselves?
Now, the issue there is that number one, we cannot shy away from corruption processes in those sectors. That's the truth. Because you can hear it on newspaper, there is no welfare at the police, they were under weaponized. There is a budget on all these every year at the National Assembly, submitted to the National Assembly through the appropriation bills. Where are the monies? Where are the monies? And at the same time, every state governor must be able to think outside the box to generate more IGR. Because if you don't generate more IGR, you cannot sustain community police. You cannot even sustain state police that you are crying for. Because these are supposed to be under the state governor bill, not federal government bill. But the one that we, like you said, the one that we have on federal government bill, you want to tell me that they are not giving them money every year? Where are the money? So I don't want to go deep because I know, let me say I know nothing or little about some of all these things. I have a brother that is a police officer that he was shot at the point of duty, and for 1.5 years, they don't care how he was treated. Only what they can only give him is the award letter or ceremony, whatever. So I don't want to, and you like what you said, nobody want to talk about it. Yes, the reason why people don't want to talk about it, or we that we are public affairs analysts, is that this government have come to a level whereby when you touch some sensitive area, they will wrap it with the way that maybe you are insulting them or you are inciting violence. They will find one language to rope you. So everybody were like, okay, I have to be careful because I have my family as well to back on that are relying on me. So that is the reason. Until the government itself allow the people to have a freedom of speech. You can say anything you like on social media, but you can't say anything you like on this platform.
Interesting. Very interesting perspective there. I hope it gets to a level where we will begin to understand that this country belongs to us and not the leaders.
Exactly.
Because as citizens, our citizenship is not tenured.
Exactly.
It's the leaders who have expiry dates.
Exactly.
And when they are done, they will join us on this other side of the divide. And so we cannot give up on this country, essentially. I will move on to the next important issue for us this morning, and it permeates most of the paper, which is the position on the voters' registration extension.
Exactly.
One paper is saying they have extended, the INEC is saying we have not extended, the other paper is saying INEC has agreed they have extended. What's your perspective on this? Should we honestly extend this CVR, considering the kind of rush that we seem to be seeing across INEC offices in the Federation?
Yeah, if the people desire, because a lot of people have clocked 18 years old between last election and today. Some people are clocking 18 years yesterday. Even we're supposed to have a system whereby registration have to close either 2 weeks to election. That's a reality. Because there are some people that they will clock 18 by December. That means you literally
shut them out.
So, but a story here and counter story at the other side, it shows that it's a lack of leadership.
You know, but the INEC has explained earlier that because these cards need some time to produce, and the register needs some time to clean up so that they can remove incidences of double registration and all of that, that it's important this process finish some 5 months
before the election.
But like you said, is there nothing we can do?
There is a lot we can do. So why are we still operating like a monologue country? I don't rule the fact that we are third world nation and we are developing nation, but that does not cage our mentality. People should start thinking outside the box. They should start to go and get technology. If we can get, before in this country, if you apply for ATM in your bank, they will say come back in 2 weeks' time. But today you can get to your bank today and get your ATM instantly. Is that not innovation? Why is it when it comes to government things, they just make things as if is something that is difficult to do? You can find a way whereby you register now, you get your permanent voter's card immediately. And make sure it's available, those machines are available across the ward level. You conduct an election across the ward, not local government. So if you need to recruit more part-time staff, recruit them. What is the work of the NYSC people? Bring them into the system. They are collecting salary, doing nothing. Bring NYSC graduate students, bring them into the system. Deploy them at the ward level. Get a standard machine. Create more smaller offices at the ward level. It may be a detached office. Why are we just like to be romancing failure? And they will come out with big grammar and tell you it takes 5 months, which 5 months? If I can get my ATM card, and the ATM card have chips as well. So what are you bringing to permanent voters card? Till now, I've not gotten my national ID card permanent card. Since when? Since almost 5 years ago.
Interesting. Let us move away from these issues and Ibrahim, take a look at the APC wahala with the gale of defection.
The current crisis that seems to be hitting the APC, because lots of people saw this coming.
That's right.
When the primaries were about to take place, I mean, like we talked about this. Yeah. We knew that there are lots of people that are going to be disillusioned or not satisfied with whatever it is that happened. And we thought that the party would have taken proactive steps to mitigate things like this. But now there seems to be an exodus from the ruling party as a fallout of those primaries. How do you think how does this affect the potential outcome of the 2023 election?
Now, definitely it's going to affect not even election, it's going to affect our national development.
Okay.
In the sense that majority of this party don't have internal democracy. And that is one of the things the House of Rep people foresaw, that let's clink these on direct primary alone, so that it will be difficult for anybody to give delegate money. So when you lose on a popular demand, you will accept your defeat. But in a situation whereby a governor will sit down somewhere and begin to write names and say this is our, and we have done primary. Nobody will take that. That's what has happened in the majority of those parties. So it's going to affect us. Like in House of Rep, they have lost about 176 members that they may not likely to come back. And they were looking at it in negative knowledge that if you have been in the House for like 2 times and you are able to come back 3rd time, it will help them on development nationally, because like a first timer that they will only learn his first 2 years he will be learning. So when we have a first timer like 200 in the House or 150 in the House out of 300 and something, that will tell you that those ones will just start to learn.
But could that be a reflection on the people that did not come back, that they did not perform well enough for the people to actually
if you don't perform, the issue there is that people say people are not performing. What are the parameters that we citizens set in place to check their performance? Is it by talking? Some people are not talking in that place, but they are doing a great job. That's the truth. Some people are not outspoken people. But in pen, in big sponsoring, in capacity building, they are doing a lot. So people believe that legislative work is about talking. No, you may not talk, but you have a creative idea and a bill that can help your nation and your community. You're able to sponsor it, and it pass through the first and second reading and until approval. So that doesn't mean that you did not perform. No. We should have a parameter to check if in your constituency that my leader, my senator, my rep member is performing or not. So it's not general thing. Because if my rep is performing in my own area, and you are looking at it in your own angle that this man always sit down, he doesn't talk. It may not be so in my constituency. So the issue there is we should encourage internal democracy. That's the truth. There is no internal democracy in all this party. So that people can see that this is a free and fair election. There will not be too much decamping and cross-carpeting, jump carpeting.
Interesting. I would get your thoughts in just 30 seconds. One of the papers, the Vanguard newspaper specifically said, we are likely to see this current fuel scarcity persist. Clearly, there's nothing happening to suggest that there's going to be a solution tomorrow or the day after. What's your perspective on that?
You know, the Pengassan people are saying the problem they have is distribution. On the other hand, some are looking at the cost, the fuel subsidy, and they want to, the federal government also looking for a way to remove the subsidy. So it's neither there here nor there. I can only appeal to the federal government. Anything they want to do, they should consider the citizen of this country, the less privileged. The people that if the price of the fuel increase, it will affect everything. You are talking about inflation in food prices already. So what are we going to see? So that is just, I can only appeal to them because you cannot, these people, you can't get their real story. Begasa will be talking his own, Labour will be talking his own, federal government will be talking his own. They just put out in the middle. And they will tell you, no, it's not our fault. It's international market. The crude oil has changed. The price high at the international market, as is high in international market, we are losing in Nigeria. So
Interesting.
I can only appeal.
Interesting. We can only appeal. As one of the lawmakers says in Kaduna, we can only pray. I think it has come to the time where all people of all faith would have to approach their God and bring this situation before his tables. Apparently, it has defied every political solutions as known to man. We've been talking to Larry Oluwani, a public affairs commentator, who has given us perspective this morning on the newspaper headlines across major national papers this morning. It's a pleasure to have you join us.
Thank you.
We look forward to when you join us again to share those things you don't want to talk about.
Thank you.
We will take a short break, and when we return, the show continue. Please stay with us.
But in a situation where you find that a look at the
Not necessarily tribal or regional.
but I have said that.
times have passed, and with it so many things that once were our visual delights. Technological advancement has brought about tremendous changes in the way and manner media deliver content to its audience.
As it continues to reposition itself to serve you much better, Media Trust Limited is rebranding its logo and visual identity to reflect our current vision and futuristic drive.
We have spread our tentacles beyond the pages of the newspaper to the digital space. The new logos and visual identities reflect the new scope of our multimedia reach.
Even with this development, however, we will continue to remain with you as we have always remained, committed to our founding philosophy, which is based on trust, integrity, openness, and courage.
The new logo, which is a marriage of a revolving globe and a mobile device, signifies the unlimited reach of our content on the digital space.
We are always the backbone of operations as we do our best to deliver content that suits your needs.
When you see a new trust title or platform in the next few days, therefore, do not be alarmed.
We remain committed to you and will continue to serve you through fair and responsible journalism.
Hello, good morning. It is 8 o'clock and right now it is Daybreak on Trust TV. If you're just joining us, well, the show is Daybreak on Trust TV this lovely Thursday morning. I am Ibrahim Yusuf.
I am Sunday Michael Ogo. It's a beautiful morning indeed, and it's a pleasure to have you join us this morning.
All right, so we'll go straight into the headlines this morning. INEC agrees to extend voter registration by 60 days.
I am worried senators are leaving, according to APC National Chairman Adamu.
Why we can't pay Benue workers, says Autumn.
Now the news in details. The National Chairman of the All Progressive Congress, APC, Abdullahi Adamu, has expressed worry over the gale of defection in the party. 7 senators dumped APC for other opposition parties after they failed to secure the governorship party's ticket to contest in the 2023 elections. Members of the Senate who have defected from the APC are Ibrahim Shekarau of Kano, Yahya Abdullahi of Kebbi, Adamu Alero of Kebbi, Lauda Jika of Bauchi, Ahmed Baba Keita of Katsina, Lawal Yahya Gumau of Bauchi, and Francis Alekimena of Edo State. Briefing reporters after the closed-door meetings with APC senators, Adamu said it was unfortunate that the lawmakers left the party.
Meanwhile, the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, has agreed to extend the ongoing continuous voter registration exercise, initially slated to end by the end of June 2022. Chairman of the House of Representatives Committee on Electoral Matters, Honorable Aishatu Jibril Dukku, disclosed this while briefing fellow lawmakers on the committee's efforts to ensure implementation of a House resolution reached last week. The House of Representatives had last Wednesday urged INEC to extend the deadline for the continuous voter registration by an extra 60 days from June 30th, 2022 to enable more Nigerians register. The House also called on the Commission to deploy additional staff and voter registration machines across the country to meet the objective.
And now moving on to states, the Governor Samuel Autumn of Benue State on Wednesday said it has become difficult to pay salaries of Benue workers. Daily Trust reports that workers under the state employ have been complaining of being owed 3 months' salaries. Autumn, while answering questions from journalists in Makurdi, the state capital, on Wednesday, said 3 reasons for the development. He blamed factors such as the rising cost of overhead, the inability of the NNPC to remit money to the Federation accrual, and the state's low internally generated revenue as a result of the insecurity.
All right, that's it for the news headlines. We'll now take a couple of news reports. The federal government is taking this into account that academic activities will soon resume in earnest because of its commitment to resolve contending issues with the university-based unions. Now, Minister of Labour and Employment, Senator Chris Ngige, gave the assurances on Wednesday while fielding questions from newsmen at State House Abuja at the end of the Federal Executive Council meeting. Kende Amadu reports.
ASU started its strike on February 14 over a dispute on the use of the University Transparency Accounting Solution for the payment of university lecturers instead of the Integrated Payroll and Personnel Information System, IPPIS, which is used by the federal government. The other three university-based unions, the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities, SANU, the Non-Academic Staff Union of Education and Associated Institutions, NASU, and the National Association of Academic Technologists, NAAT, had joined the industrial action over the inability of government to address their own concerns. The dispute has dragged on so long that speculations are rife that government is no longer engaging ASU. But the minister says this is not true, as government has narrowed down two issues in contention.
Renegotiation of their package, welfare package, as in the 2009 agreement. That agreement says you can review every 5 years. So that issue stuck out like a sore thumb. Then another issue arose that is not in that agreement on the payment platform of University Transparency Accounting Solution, which they say they have invented. They say they don't want to be on IPs, that IPs was amputating their salaries.
But Ngige stressed he was expecting reports from the Ministry of Education, the National Information Development Agency, NITDA, and even the lecturers over the issues.
I have not gotten back any of the reports from education, from salaries, incomes, and wages, nor from ASU, because they're also supposed to report to me if there is anything untoward going on. I have not gotten any report. So, but on the government side, we are calling up a meeting tomorrow so that everybody in government side can report.
Government, however, has to be careful not to seem as if it is giving ASU preferential treatment over the other university unions.
There's rivalry. If you pretend there is no rivalry, it's a lie. Everybody knows there's a rivalry. So by next period, we're going to again bring them together, and what government offers to them will be given to them, will be shown to them, for them to go back to their individual unions. And with that, we'll solve it.
This is probably the clearest indication given by government that it now has a strategy to end the strike as soon as possible. From State House Abuja, Kehinde Amodu, Trust TV News.
I am sure every household and indeed every parent in Nigeria, not to talk of the students, are looking forward to that day.
Definitely.
When this problem will become history in the annals of national issues. And then moving on, Muslims and Christians in Kaduna State from the 23 local government area have observed a day of prayer and fasting to end the economic and security challenges bedeviling the state. Clerics from both faiths who spoke during the prayer session said the worsening state of insecurity in Kaduna necessitated the desire to seek God's help. The report.
Kaduna State is one of the states in the northwest facing banditry, terrorism and other crimes, despite effort by security agencies to address them. The worsening security situation is daily reducing options available to those charged with the responsibility of protecting lives and property. This one-day prayer session by Christians and Muslims is observed across the state for God to intervene.
There shall be no bloodshed. There shall be unity. There shall be peace. In Jesus' name we are praying.
We don't have anything. It's this God we're calling, and it's this God we're looking up to. And that's why both Muslims and Christians are praying today to salvage Kaduna State.
There are a lot of things happening in Kaduna that we are not aware of. So we can only settle this matter in the place of prayer. We are praying for mercy for Kaduna State.
An All Progressive Congress APC governorship aspirant in the last primary election, Sani Shaban, has given up on government and her ability to bring peace and is now relying on God.
We fasted today. We believe we don't have any strength but that only the strength of God Almighty. We believe we don't have any wisdom except that wisdom of God Almighty. We believe whoever is trying to wrangle, kill Kaduna State, allow Kaduna State to fly in a plane without a pilot, for Kaduna State to crash, God Almighty will not allow that to happen.
Practitioners of the two major religions in Nigeria are positive that a spiritual angle may hold the magic wand to solving the state security challenges.
And that's it for the reports that we actually have on a daybreak for this hour. We'll take a short break right now, and when we return, the show continues. To stay with us.
The rains are here again. Floods are ravaging. Why? As residents of FCT, we have made some wrong choices. Dumping refuse in water channels, building on waterways, damaging water lines. The consequences of flooding can be devastating. Lives are lost, properties are damaged, people are displaced, farmlands are destroyed. Don't make the wrong choices. Don't build on floodplains. Don't dump refuse in waterways. Don't damage water lines. Clear all refuse in waterways around your premises. Together, we can safeguard lives and property. Do the right thing now. For emergencies, please call 112 or 122. This message is from the FCT Emergency Management Agency, FEMA.
Welcome back to Daybreak on Trust TV. Well, right now we're going to go straight into the heart of a topic of discussion for this morning, which is something that's on the front burner of everybody's lips right now because it's the election season. And of course, it is politics. Well, a third gale of defections of high-profile politicians has hit the country recently, and in the first and second waves, the decampees were directly and indirectly wooed to cross over to the APC. Now, for this third one, those cross-carpeting are the ones somehow lobbying other political parties to embrace them. Moreover, the ongoing gale of defections cut across the two major parties. Now, among the latter-day prominent decampees are Senate Majority Leader Yahya Abdullahi, Minority Leader of the Senate Einaya Abaribe, Senator Adamu Alero, amongst others. Now, some of these senators resigned due to internal crisis in their various political parties that saw many of them edged out of their political parties' primaries. Now, to discuss the impact of these political realignments, we have in the studio a member of the People's Democratic Party from Kebbi State, Idris Kalugu. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Well, so this gale of defections that we're actually having, they seem to be a fallout of the primary elections that were carried out in both political parties, and some people are feeling discontent with the results of those political parties. Is that an indication of the lack of internal democracy within the parties that we have?
Well, in other aspects, I will say yes, and in the other aspect, I will say no.
Okay.
Because if you look at it closely, we, the PDP, have been expecting more members from other parties to join the PDP. The majority leader, that of the Malaria, all from Kebbi State. These are prominent politicians. Having them in PDP is a plus in PDP. And with these two major politicians, we're going to win Kebbi easily. With Adamu Aleru, we have like 60% chances of winning Kebbi. Just like I said, we're still expecting more.
Interesting. You know, these people used to be in the PDP before. They moved away from the PDP on occasion by similar kind of incidents. What does this speak about our political parties? I mean, are we not supposed to be moving away from this to a politics of ideology? Why should we be celebrating people who were rejected from other platforms? In a way,
they were actually not rejected. You know, politics is a game of interests. It is their own opinion, and they feel that PDP is now going to be the winning team. And everybody is urging to join the People's Democratic Party.
All right, so, sorry, talking about interests and winning, and Sunday just talked about something very important. They were part of the PDP. They left, and now they're back again. If, for perchance, a situation arises that they feel, since now they feel the PDP is the winning team, just like you actually said, and they feel that the chances of those wins are actually slimming, and what was going to stop them from leaving again?
Well, just like I said, it's a game of interests, and they have their own opinion. Nobody's going to stop them. It is their own choice. But for now, what matters to PDP, they're in PDP.
So the party is not putting anything in place to make sure that things like this don't happen?
Well, that's why if you check even in our form, it indicates that the interest and nomination forms, it also says that if anything should happen, you are not to take it further, like maybe kind of, let's say, outcome of the primaries and everything. You in any way are supposed to support the other candidate that emerges, which is new, unlike what we have in 2019 and 2011, 2015. So this is one of the few measures taken from the PDP family. And then, inshallah, we're not going to have that much problem this time around.
I'm happy to hear that you're saying that they are preparing for more defections. Apparently, you have seen signals that more of these defections are going to happen. Can you let us in on some of those signals that you have? Is it just a Kebbi thing? Are we going to see this defection across several other states, say, for instance, where the APC is a major, is the ruling party?
Sure, it's across the whole country. Because this is the first time we checked that there's no any household in Nigeria that has no any PDP member. And the Nigerians are now rallying behind the PDP because they are seeing hope, and the atmosphere for change is here, the real change.
When you say the atmosphere for change and the risks of cutting you, is it to change the change?
Yes.
Or to continue with the change, the time that we saw.
To change the change.
The time that we saw. And I would like your input, really. Why do you think there is, in your estimation, there is a growing romance around the PDP as against what we currently have today?
Well, you know, we in the PDP have never been relaxed and calm like now, because surely, inshallah, we know we're taking over. The Nigerians, majority of them are solidly behind us. And then imagine of His Excellency Atiku Abubakar was here in Adamawa. It's an excellent opportunity that we, the PDP, have. And then you can see when it comes, and also the choice of VP. Both Atiku Abubakar and Okowa are grassroots politicians. These are competent candidates. That's why you see everywhere you go, Atiku Abubakar is the candidate to beat. That's why the whole party I was talking about, Atiku Abubakar, Atiku Abubakar, Atiku Abubakar. So this time around, the PDP, we are ready, and Nigerians are solidly behind us.
All right, well, talking about the Atiku Okowa ticket, there have been some grumbling, some discontent from some quarters when Okowa actually emerged as the vice presidential nominee for the PDP ticket. What's the PDP doing to actually make sure that these grumblings just stay as grumblings and they don't mean something else, like maybe leading to the defections that we're talking about, that maybe some people might decide to leave because of that discontent, that they feel that Okowa wasn't really the right choice for them?
You know, in life, whatever decision you will make, you have a party that will not agree to it, some party will agree to it. We have come a long way in such time in PDP. And just like I said earlier, PDP have never been in better position like now. And in PDP, we are one big family. Despite all these things, we are still in good terms, and we still relate very well to each other. It's just a matter of time, disagreement and agreements, and then we'll come to term very soon.
Interesting. Let me now speak like an advocate of the parties other than the PDP. People would say, people from the other party, especially the ruling party, would say that they are quick to always point out 16 years of misgovernance, 16 years of misrule. They said 16 years of, they call it the Poverty Development Party. Do you think we have come to a point where people can now trust you enough to forget the 16 years? Or was it the 16 years to forget, actually, in comparison to the last 7?
Well, you as a journalist, I'll bet you go out there, ask 10 people, who do you think serve us well in this country? 9 out of 10 will say it's PDP. And that's why you see all corners, everybody is now saying, it is time to change the change. So, I don't even want to answer this like in my own way, but this is what the majority of people are saying out there. That's why if you go out there, everywhere is chanting PDP, Atiku, everywhere, every corner. Because our 16 years is far better. And then now Nigerians have an opportunity to choose for the next president. And PDP presents the best candidates. And lots of Nigerians are happy about it. And we have new members in PDP. Just recently, we have about almost getting to like 13-point-something million new members added up. That's to show you how people are eager to join politics, and Nigerians are so eager to see that they have changed the change.
Well, at the risk of sounding like an advocate of the other political parties, just like Sunday said, you guys had 16 years to run the show. The change has 7. Some might argue that, all right, why not give them the same opportunity to have the same 16 years to see whether they could be able to get it right? As you're saying, they're not getting it right now. Maybe give them an additional 9 now to the 7 that they already have.
I think 8 is enough. We have tested the 8, and then we want to continue from that 16.
Well, we are beginning to see a major change in our political landscape. Today, prior to this time, about this time, you would notice that the presidential race is usually a 2-horse race. Now, we have individuals that are beginning to stir some kind of interest and attention from not the 2 major political parties. And you know who I'm talking about, Peter Obi on the one hand, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso on the other hand. And in fairness, we have seen a huge following to these two individuals, the kind that we have not seen in recent time in our political landscape. How would you describe the emergence of these two candidates in adding to the mix that we already have with the big weights between Atiku and, of course, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu?
Well, which party is Peter Obi?
Labour.
Labour. Okay. You are talking about the national, not even state. When you talk about state level, I would say, okay, Peter Obi is doing good in his own state. If you talk about state in Kano, I would say, okay, Kwankwaso is doing well in Kano State. On general election, NNPP and the Labour Party may come a long way in their state levels. But you will be surprised how people will massively vote for PDP. Because if we go to the north now, for example, and ask a commoner and say, like, do you know Labour Party? I think the first thing he would do, he or she would be like, is there a new party or something like that? And then they'll be asking you, who is Peter Obi? Then you talk about Kwankwaso as well. If you go to the east and the south, lots of them don't even know who Kwankwaso is. So I think we should be talking about two parties, which is the APC and PDP. These are the two candidates that 80% of Nigerians have been watching and looking at to see who's going to be the next president among them. In the other side, maybe I think, you know, politics is a game of interest. Just like everybody has his or her right to decide which party to join, Kwankwaso and Peter Obi, they can go to any party they wish. But what matters the most is who gets elected. The two candidates we are looking at, Asiwaju and Atiku Abubakar, are the major candidates. So these two, we can decide to say, okay, let them have their own state. We have 36 plus Abuja, we have 37. And the people of Kano that I know, a lot of them will go for Atiku at the presidential level.
Well, that's quite an interesting take on it. With that, we will wrap up this segment of the discussion. Idris Kalgo, thank you very much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
And we hope to have you again subsequently, hopefully to discuss more on the PDP and other political issues.
Thank you very much.
All right, this is still Daybreak on Trust TV. We'll take a short break right now, and when we return, the show continues. Do stay with us.
To every politician, as the campaigns gain momentum and passions begin to rise, remember, the errors of your opponents do not make you a success. Do not run down your opponent and inflame passions to violence between and among your supporters. What counts is what you plan to do for the electorate and how you intend to relieve the sufferings and bring succor. Nigeria is in dire need of patriotic leaders at all levels. Leaders who will make national development their priority. Concentrate on telling the electorate what you intend to do when you get into office. Focus on making your vision clear to the electorate. Don't engage in verbal abuses, fake news or speeches. Keep dealing with issues that will bring progress. You win the hearts and minds of the people by being above board, by being civil, patriotic, and showing empathy. Let's join hands to make the 2023 elections peaceful. A message from the National Orientation Agency.
Thank you for staying tuned to Daybreak on Trust Television. If you're just joining us, we are now shifting gears away from the matter of politics to now look at the judiciary, one sector that is not often talked about. They somehow, except for landmark judgments or during election period, they manage to stay away from the news as much as possible. But there have been recent development in that space, and just about every Nigerian is interested in how these developments unfold. The Nigerian Bar Association says there is an urgent need for fundamental reforms of the administration and governance of the Nigerian judiciary. In a press statement issued by the President Olumide Akpata, the NBA described as disheartening and unfortunate the conditions highlighted in the letters written by 14 justices of the Supreme Court of Nigeria to the Chief Justice of Nigeria, alleging various improprieties and administrative inefficiencies, and the subsequent responses of the CJN. The NBA noted that the situation has not only affected the judicial responsibility of the justices, but also impacted on the justice administration process. We have with us in the studio a lawyer, Sam Kagbu, to talk to us about this. I hope I got that spelling correctly, sir.
Yes, you did.
You're welcome, and thanks for taking our time to be with us in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Most of us from the outside are just wondering, we've been wondering, in the last couple of days about what exactly is happening to that sacred altar where we usually do not hear from. We don't hear rancors except where an attack, is thrown from the outside. Now it appears the judiciary is imploding from within. What has led us to this stage? If you will just chronicle the situation for our viewers at home.
Well, let me start by saying that with my age at the bar, I'm over 30 years. I should be responsible and be tentative in whatever I say because I shouldn't be seen to be part of the problem. It's a very delicate and dicey situation that we should all manage and not in any way try to exacerbate it. And what I'm saying in essence is that it may not be right for us to start taking sides for now because I would use the political statement. It's still an internal affair. Yes, the letter leaked and there was a response that in itself did not do or answer to the issues. Because if indeed the justices who complained wanted the matter to go outside the house and be attended to as a kind of allegations in the form of impropriety like they use in their language, the letter wouldn't have gone to the CGN, but it would have gone to the NJC, which is the body that is responsible for handling of such allegations. So that's on the side. What I would want to say is that I think we've had to discuss this here over and over, and that is the fact that of the three arms of government, the most neglected is the judiciary. Meanwhile, it's the most hardworking. Okay. And it's the most delicate and the most important part of the three arms. Because every other arm and every other department of state, every other agency of the state, and indeed every individual is dependent on the functioning of the judiciary. And the Western world, they go to sleep with what I would call the automated system of their social life because the judiciary is functional and is well attended to. I do not think there are too many Americans or Europeans who would prefer to be president over being a justice of their apex courts. When any matter goes to the apex court, let me use America because we borrow their system. The whole of America wait in bated breath because they know the importance of it, you know, and that is why they are well taken care of. And that is why they give them the discretion to live on the bench as long as they feel fit to carry on the job until they now say, oh, I'm tired, I want to retire. Because it's a sacred office, it's important, and it is the engine and heart and soul of everything that you call humanity. There is no dispute, there is no progress, there is no endeavor that is not rooted to what they do. But what do we do here? We neglect them. Like they are saying, they operate in sweatshops. You can't imagine what it takes to write a judgment. You see me, I'm looking almost drudgy because what? Up to 4 o'clock this morning, I was writing a brief. But for me, it's not a daily job. But for them, that is a daily job. So when you say we want an independent judiciary, we are not saying it's to limit it to independence from corruption, but independent from what? Want and fears and vicissitude of what? The daily life. There is no mind that is independent when it is in want.
But the problem is a lot of people actually believe that if the judiciary is attached to the teat of the executive from where it gets the gets its want taken care of,
yes,
then it will not truly be independent.
Definitely, that's the point. You're even putting it better than perhaps I was being a little bit more I see poetic. That's the point. The independence of the judiciary, to me, as I imagine it to be, should be one whereby no amount of temptation would be attractive to them. Because if they are well paid, when I say well paid, that is a standard between the other two arms of government. We know how much the legislators are taking home. As at the last count, there is no legislator in the National Assembly that goes home with less than 8.5 or 9 million a month. But you have those justices earning less than $1 million. For God's sake, that is embarrassing.
But just to provide a bit more dimension.
Yes.
From the much we know, we understand that the judiciary gets its allocation from a first-line church. What we see as journalists is usually a one-line item. So it becomes the responsibility of that arm of government to redistribute what comes to it as a first-line church. This complaint by the other justices borders on how that redistribution is done with regards to how their welfare is taken care of. If some of the things you have said are to be met, then the efficiency, the effectiveness of how that redistribution is done should be a matter of concern, which is the complaints that they have raised.
I agree. The little you have, you should manage very well and you should account for. I'm not disputing that. But like I said, that is already an issue that has been joined by the parties. So I don't want to go into it. Let us hope that with time, that will be resolved. But the frustration that the justices are venting is not so much one entirely against the CJN. It's about their entire life as justices of the apex court.
But if that is the case, sir,
yes,
why would those complaints be largely fingering the CJN rather than direct it to perhaps the National Assembly for increased budgetary allocation?
You know,
I mean, given the fact that he cannot obviously offer anything beyond what has been given, and we all understand that. So why, if I know my father doesn't...
If you understand the way the judiciary works and the delicate position of the justices, you would know what you can imagine the frustration that led them to write that letter to say, hey, let us start from home. You've made that point. Let us start from home and ensure that the little we have, we use it for the purpose of dispensing justice functionally. When I say functionally, within an enabling environment. That is what I think they are saying. But the figure is out there, 120 billion. How much is it? For the judiciary, that is not just for
justices.
The justices. That is not just for the 14 justices. So that people don't go with the imagination to say, oh, that is for the judiciary. That in its sense, when you spread it to all the needs, structures of the judiciary, it comes to nothing.
Well, that still brings me back to the question that Sunday just pointed out.
Yes.
How far or what can the CJN actually do beyond what he actually gets?
I think they are calling on its creativity as an administrative head. Mind you, when you are the CJN, you are wearing two caps. That of a justice, and when you are a justice, of course, you are equal to all the others. But when you are the administrative head, you are also the link to the outside world. You are also what? The bridge or the buffer between the justices in their cocoon and the outside world. And that is why the staff of the judiciary, including the chief registrar, who, to my mind, an understanding of how the system should work, should be the accounting officer, should be the person that should be discussing the issues, because that is his job or her job. For the accusation to be made against the CJN concerning the management of the funds of the Supreme Court is worrisome. And that is why I am a little back reticent and not wanting to go into it, because it implies a lot. It implies a lot.
So basically what the justices are saying to the CJN is, go get more money.
Go get more money and let the system work the way it should work. That is, you can't imagine what it is for one judgment. For one judgment, sometimes you have to read over 1,000 pages. Read through that, get an essence of it, know what the facts are, know what the arguments were, know what the issues are, before you now go to the books to get what the direction as the principle that will resolve that. This is for ladies and gentlemen who are all over 60. You get a point. And they go home, they say they don't have generators. They go home.
No internet.
They don't have internet. And they don't have the opportunity to what? Accede to modern development that would make the job easier for them. The more you expose to modern technology, the more you expose to modern reasoning, the better for you in handling disputes before you.
So, sir,
this is what they are saying. They are saying, let us have the minimum standard or the minimum comfort that will make us do the job. And if you ask me, that shouldn't be an issue for today's Nigeria.
Counsel, if I understand you correctly,
please,
it does appear that as citizens, we don't seem to understand or appreciate how much of challenges that sector faces, the judiciary.
That's what I'm saying.
That's on the one hand. But do you also agree with me that this is also occasioned on what appears to be an ambiguous reporting system also from the judiciary, as we have seen from the National Assembly? We don't seem to understand how the little that goes to that sector is spent, to appreciate the need to provide more. We have said that, I mean, you would agree with me that the National Assembly had come up for serious battering over how whatever they get is spent. Because if you like, it may be from lack of understanding of how it is spent. Because we see the budget of the executive. Everything is broken down to cost of paper, cost of newspaper, cost of toilet papers. Whether or not they are provided in the final analysis is a different argument. Why is it difficult for us to see the budget of the judiciary in that light and then begin to appreciate that whatever we are giving to this sector is inadequate?
I think now that they've raised the point, you will look into it. Don't give me the impression that theirs was not part of the budgetary system. It's part of it. But how many of us have the patience and time to put out ourselves to look into sectoral or micro aspect of the national budget? We always look at those areas that are of concern to us. don't concern ourselves with those ones. If we indeed were attentive, we would have been able to see the early warning sign to say that how much of this, how does this relate to the entire workings of the judiciary in the country? When you say, people, there was somebody who was telling me, say, but can you imagine, these people are having as much as 120 billion. And I was saying, do you know what that one means for the entire judiciary of the country? How much is it at the end of the day? But take a look at, in comparison, the budget that is being handled for the management of only the National Assembly, which is a one complex institution. Compare the two. You will see what I'm saying. But like I have said, the opportunity is here. Even for us as lawyers, I would think that it is not just for us to start pontificating, because that's an easy job to do. It is not just for us to do this moral signaling or whatever it is. This is the time for us to say, for the survival of the judiciary, our profession is dependent on it. The quality of our profession is dependent on it. We should do something. I do not think there is anything wrong for us to say as lawyers, let us create a fund towards the assistance of what? The proper functioning of the judiciary. Because like I said, the quality of our democracy, the quality of our governance system, and the quality of every public delivery system is dependent on what? The quality of judiciary that we have. The ability to attract foreign investment, the ability for us to have a competitive private sector. When I say competitive now, this is a global world.
That's right.
For the private sector in Nigeria, for it to be competitive, the competition is not about within, it's about the global world. For us to have that, the foundation is what? A functioning judiciary, whereby justice will be dispensed on time.
Let me get you to further espouse on one of the things you said, the creation of funds. What kind of funds are you looking at? Are you talking about the creation of funds in similar to what we have, for instance, like the Education Trust Fund?
Beautiful.
Or you are talking about, I mean...
No, you said it. We said it. So that I was in Benin. It rained. I couldn't get into the premises of the Court of Appeal, the one at Ibubaslu.
Yes.
I'm not lying. I went back into the car, I wept. I said, shouldn't be in today's Nigeria. All of us went through the mud. The water got into me here to get into the courtroom. And half of the courtroom was flooded with water. Court of Appeal. I'm not talking of an area court. You understand? So we should rise to the occasion. Like I said, those who have the responsibility to look into the grievances of the justices as expressed and addressed to the CJN should do their job, and I'm hoping that they will do that job. Thankfully, the body of senior advocates have waded in. You understand? Some people will say, oh, they shouldn't go and they shouldn't be talking about settling conflict. They should take up the matter because criminal allegations have been made. To me, that's a distraction. You understand? The issue and the point that is indisputable is that our justices are in clear need of attention.
In 30 seconds, you have talked about a distraction.
Yes.
But no matter how little that distraction is, do you think that for long-term peace and understanding that there isn't the need to respond to those micro issues of
That's what I'm saying. It will be, I said, I had expressed that wish. Mind you, the office of the CJ, like I said, this is, what would you call it now? What the British call it what? Among equals. You understand? They are colleagues. And the CJN would not go home with the feeling that he's talking to subordinates. No. They're colleagues. The only time perhaps he will sit on a rostrum higher than theirs is when he's doing his administrative job. And that is what has been called to attention. They say that aspect of it needs to be accounted for and needs to be reformed. All well and good. I appreciate that. And I do not think that even the Attorney General would let that pass. Because even himself had at one occasion said they had increased the allocations to the judiciary, but what had not improved is what? Accountability of that. If you know that, I would expect that now that the opportunity has come, you would act. The NJC is also there, irrespective of the fact that the CJN is the chairman or the head of it. I would expect that they would act. But like I said, issues have been joined. I would not want to start making conclusions or opinion about it. But what I know I have the duty to express is that that arm of government is neglected. And in any case, that should be the most qualitative arm of government.
Interesting. Interesting perspective there coming from senior lawyer and a friend of the house, Kagbo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Kagbo, yeah.
I'm sure I am forgiven by the senior counsel in the house for those wrong pronouncements. But he has offered us various perspectives as to how to approach this issue, and he has emphasized restraints as much as possible to allow the system self-rightening process, to take control and fix the judiciary in such a manner that would allow you to continue to dispense justice in the quickest time possible. We would have the opportunity to talk to you again sometimes when time allows in the future, and we hope that you would grant us audience when we call. It's been a pleasure having you follow us on the program from 7 a.m. to this point. We hope to see you again tomorrow, same time, where we would serve you fresh developments on our national polity. I am Sunday Michael Ogo.
Thank you very much for staying with us. I am Ibrahim Yusuf. Let's do it again tomorrow.